I swear it really just don't fade away. But where you been, nigga, really got say. Y'all the type of niggas y'all just really hate. To work you, I swear I'm a nigga, go film and play. Stacking money, yeah, like every day. Praying for some better days. All this pain that you see that be on my face. Looking guilty like a nigga caught a case. Cause lately I swear I've been in the dog's place. Wish that I can go and I could hide my face. Don't know what the fuck lately to really change, but I swear I got money in the baby like I'm pork chase. Someday feel like I just be fourth grade. Never felt like you did really just be dumb things. I'm losing open, I swear all that shit's fake. But I swear every day, yeah, I just still be getting paid. But all that really do, it really numb the pain. The hurt, I swear they got me feeling so insane. Every day I put a smile up on my face. But every day I swear that shit just be so fake. Frontin' one like on the play. Swear every day I swear I be losing faith. Hoping that they the same fate. But lately I swear I just been here and day. Lately I swear I just really sad days. Yeah, y'all know what I'm feeling, y'all understand what I'm saying. I swear to God, yeah, I ain't really playing. Feel like lately I just be up in the safe. But I don't know there's any more that I can take. Try to do better, but I feel like it's too late. I'm in my head, girl, cause that pussy was great. I swear I was addicted to that pussy fake. Lately feeling so degrade.
Media, and you said you felt like that Keith Thurman fight is still a big fight. And then we hear what he has to say, that he'd be down to take that fight in 8 months. What do you think of that, bud?
Why we gotta wait so long?
Let's go.
You're crazy.
Because he's probably feeling like, I need one fight back, being that I ain't fought since Pacquiao. Let me get that one fight back in, and then boom.
Oh, well, that just shows that he don't believe in himself like, he need to.
Hey, Terence, somebody.
That's Terence Crawford, Bud himself, telling you how he really feel about Keith one time Thurman. Look, they projected it. They talked about it. Even last year, man, if you were a Terence Crawford fan, a Bud Crawford fan, if you were paying attention, Crawford was calling out Keith Thurman for a little bit. He's been saying for at least the last 2 years now, maybe even 3, if you want to be honest with myself and honest with what's been going on in the boxing world. He's been saying the 3 fights that he really wanted was that Manny Pacquiao fight, that Earl Spence fight, and the Keith Thurman fight. I've been hearing that for the longest from Terence. But why bring Terence Bud into this when we talking about what Keith Thurman's about to do? Why are we even bringing up T-Bud? Because we all know, like what we just saw on that Porterway podcast clip, man. Keith Thurman been saying he had a projected date of when he wanted to actually fight Terence Crawford. He had a projected date. Keith Thurman did. Keith Thurman's been knowing Terence Crawford, been on his own radar, and he knows he needs one fight to get ready for him. So with that being said, that is why Barrios versus Keith Thurman is happening early January of 2022. See, it's not happening late. It's not happening mid. It's happening at the very beginning because Keith Thurman plans on getting himself back into good enough boxing shape, or at least comfortable enough in that ring, get one off, dust one off, where he can get back up in there with Crawford, Bud, and give him one of the hardest fights that he's ever had. But anyways, man, I want to salute everybody who came up in here. First and foremost, I want to say hit that like button for your boy. Give me in the algorithm. I'd appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you ain't subscribed to the channel. And as always, man, pieces, blessings, positivity, love to everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's Thursday up in here, man. We later in the week, almost about to hit the weekend. How's it feel? Feels good. I love it when we about to hit the weekend, man. I'm amped for the weekend. We got, a couple good fights happening on Saturday too. So make sure y'all join me for Fluence Lounge. We got something that a lot of people weren't talking about. We got Conor Benn versus Chris Algieri happening this Saturday, which is going to be a fire fight. I'll be going Fluence Lounge for that. Then I'm not sure what boxing is happening Saturday night. I'm sorry, excuse me. And then Lomachenko versus Kami. Sorry, y'all. That's disrespectful for me even to not even remember that fight. But then we got Lomachenko versus Comey happening later that night, and then we also have a big UFC card headlined by Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira. So Saturday finna be a fire night of fights. Friday, y'all better go ahead and look out for that Black Goose Friday. We finna be dropping a song, and that's gonna be fire. Then of course we got another Fluence Boxing coming to y'all tomorrow. Me and Zim dropped a podcast on Tuesday, so make sure y'all go check that out if y'all haven't seen it. But as always, peace, positivity, blessings, love. You know what I'm saying? All that good stuff towards your way. I'm just hoping for nothing but the best. Once again, hit the like button if y'all come up in here, man. Show some love, man. We just gonna get right up into it, man. I was already talking about it. Y'all showed a clip in the beginning. The reason why I was talking about Terence Crawford is because obviously Keith one-time Thurman versus Mario Barrios has been announced. Of course, everyone's running with it. Everyone's talking about it. Of course, everyone knows the reason why this fight is even happening is for Keith Thurman to have a preparation fight, for him to get ready for Terence Crawford. A lot of people are saying in July is when it's going to end up happening. But there's a possibility it might even be later in the year. I don't see how it could be any later than July. I don't see Terence Crawford waiting around that long for Keith Thurman. And I actually think it would be better for Thurman to hop right back into the ring, but that all comes down to if he beats Barrios. That's the thing. Are we all overlooking Barrios? That's the question. Barrios is going up to 147. This is his first fight at 147. A lot of people have always said he's been a big guy for the 140 division. A lot of people said a lot of his problems in the 140 division, even though he was very successful, if there was something that you could point out that you could take advantage of if you were an elite fighter, which Gervonta Davis did, is kind of drag him into those later rounds. You always see him kind of let off the pedal in the later rounds because his gas tank just isn't what it's supposed to be at times when you're watching Barrios, and a lot of that was contributed to the weight cut and how much weight that he was losing in order to get down to that 140 that 140 weight. But the thing is, it's just more of another money fight for Barrios, where he's just moving up to 147 just to particularly or specifically, I should say, more matter of fact, to fight Keith Thurman, or is he moving up to 147 not only to fight Keith Thurman but to make it his permanent home? I think that matters in the narrative, guys. That matters. How is he training? Is he training for this to be a one-time fight at 147? And he's getting a big payday, and he has a chance, to look good against, one of the greats in Keith Thurman. Because regardless of what you think about Keith Thurman is one of the greats. He did amazing things during his time. He might have lost to Manny Pacquiao, but it was a close fight. So if you're a follower of Keith Thurman, which I've always been, I hate to say was, I still am. It's just, in the last 5-6 years, it's very frustrating to be a fan of Keith Thurman, but at the same time, you got to respect the boxer. You got to respect what they go through, what can happen to the body. And at the end of the day, he's made the most of it. He's one of those guys where when you really understand, well, I won't say this, if you follow Thurman enough, he's one of those guys where at this point, he doesn't have to box. Like, he's good. Like, he's never been one of those guys that just big, spend money, flash, nothing like that. He saved all his money, all that good stuff. So I think a lot of it has to do with, obviously, well, I'm going to take that back. I think a lot of the inactivity is a mixture of injuries, but also he doesn't have to rush back to the game. You feel me? A lot of people in the boxing game, maybe they feel like they either want to rush back to the game because obviously they have a status that they're trying to, get to or meet. And in order for that to happen, you got to be back in the game, going, moving at a certain pace. Keith Thurman felt like he did what he did, in his prime, and it was good enough for where, obviously, I don't think, in my opinion, it's like he's trying to keep himself away from the ring, but he knows, he knows his body the best, and he probably understands too. Like, at the end of the day, what I've done, there's only so many things that can top that, and one of them can be like, you can't look at that as like a Terence Crawford type way or Earl Spence, and I'm gonna be active and I'm gonna continue fighting and I'm just gonna beat these guys if they line up, or he can come back and I'm gonna fight a Pacquiao, give him a great fight. I lost it, I lost to him, but if I would have beat him, think what that could have done for me. Then he's going to come back. Most likely he's going to and fight Terence Crawford. Obviously, he got the Barrios fight. This is what we're specifically talking about. And the biggest question obviously comes down to whether or not he's going to be overlooking Barrios in this particular fight because of what's projected to come afterwards. Obviously, that's the biggest thing. And then remember too, when Crawford named off his 3 opponents, he said Thurman, Spence, Ugas, right? And obviously, all 3 of those fighters are PBC fighters, right? They're under one banner. If we're already projecting a fight of Keith Thurman versus Terence Crawford, are we alluding to possibly Terence Crawford making his way over to PBC? Is that a possibility? Is that what we're looking at? Or maybe it's going to be more like of a combined type thing? That's what I'm interested in. But anyways, so Keith Thurman, he had an interview not too long back. Let me see, what day was it? Widen this up a little bit. So it was in November 23rd, 2021. So that was literally a month back, less than that. He's already preparing in the gym. He's already working, it's off his live stream, right? And he's always talking, and he's talking his shit essentially through the live stream. He's just alluding to certain things. I'm gonna be back. I'm getting ready. So I'm in shape, all these type of things. This is before the Barrios fight got actually announced, right? Why am I bringing this up? Because it tells you everything has a pattern. If you pay attention enough, everything has a pattern. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see Keith Thurman versus Terence Crawford if Keith Thurman wins this fight. Nah, that doesn't mean that. But at some point, will we see that fight? I think we will, as long as Keith Thurman does what he's supposed to do. But let's look at this. And see, Keith Thurman is smart. He's saying that's not even a real fight. And if y'all check the community tab board, make sure y'all check that out. I'll be posting news on there. I got some votes up in there. I want to hear you guys' opinion. But what you guys did, vote, the little bit of votes that did come in, y'all thought that the fight that this is going to have for Keith Thurman and Barrios is going to be him leading up to a Gervonta fight. Now, originally, I didn't read all the way through the article. So when I posted it, it did come off as if they were fighting at 140. Thurman was going down, but that's not the case. Barrios is moving up to 147. So obviously that alludes more so to a Terence Crawford fight. Also, remember, it was either today, I think it was today I was reading, or yesterday. It was yesterday or today. Gervonta Davis, he relinquished his belt at 140, but he kept his strap at 135. So it's looking like, in my eyes, I think at one point, Floyd was probably considering having Gervonta maybe jump a weight, or maybe looking at fights that could possibly happen that didn't make sense in the actual in the perspective of, oh, I'm going to get this particular belt, but to build his resume or to build who he is as a fighter, and in the casual eyes and in the hardcore eyes and a pay-per-view star. Okay, think about Gervonta jumping up to 147 to fight Keith Thurman. Like, that would be crazy, right? So obviously, I think that one point that was on the table, but I think, especially after what happened with Teofimo Lopez, obviously Devin Haney and Jojo Diaz, it was a close fight. But at the same time, I feel like if you can catch, as much as I'm a fan of Devin Haney and I still think he's the top of the food chain, no one's gonna ever be able to, change my mind when it comes to that. I think if you treat him as if a Floyd Canelo situation, not saying that if Floyd caught him at a different time, it would change, whatever it may happen. That's not what I'm alluding to. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm getting at basically is, maybe if you catch Devin Haney before he gets into his grown man strength while he's still draining himself to make 135, there's a big possibility, and I'm pretty sure on the cards, on the betting lines, it's going to be close. Davis can beat Haney, right? So I think what Floyd is saying is like, okay, let's not focus on that just yet. Let's concentrate on this 135 division. We got his weight good. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's on point with his weight cuts now. We don't got to worry about this. Like, there's too much money to be made and too much food at the 135 division. And I think that proved that by him relinquishing his belt at the 140 and then keeping his one at the 135. So, Keith Thurman just, basically, confirming that. Like, that was all made up, right? So that further points to, if Keith Thurman beats Barrios, we will have Keith Thurman versus Terence Crawford, because we already know that's what Crawford wants. But it's also going to come down to Crawford's a free agent. So how that's going to look. Boom. So there you go. I love how he went straight right back to the point. Someone come in, throw in a little, funny ass, Thurman versus McGregor. This shows how serious he is. This is November 23rd. So he said he's been in the gym, been getting ready. He's been knowing that he's been waiting for because I'll give Thurman this as well. He's very smart. As much as people, and even as being a fan of Keith Thurman, want to feel a certain way and be critical about the activity and how much he fights per year, however you want to look at it. I got to respect the simple fact that he was so smart with the game. Not only did he beat some of the best already at the 147 division, right? But now he's in a position where he can kind of call his cards. Like no one has to rush him into anything he don't want to be rushed into, right? He got the man somehow. All the criticism people want to have against Keith Thurman, whatever they want to say, he somehow got that Manny Pacquiao fight before anybody else did. And he made that Manny Pacquiao money. And even before that, still made good money. You know what I'm saying? Because you know how Keith Thurman is. You know how they say he is with his money and how he moves. Is like he's never had a problem with that. But him getting that check, he has himself in a position. Him getting the notoriety off that Manny Pacquiao fight. Because regardless of what y'all want to say, however you want to say about Thurman, people know about Thurman. Hardcore boxing fans know about Thurman to the T, and I think a lot of casual fans know about him because of that Pacquiao fight. Not extensively, obviously, but like, okay, yeah, I remember him. He fought Pacquiao, right? You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, Thurman put himself in a place where he can talk like this. I'm ready for the big fights because if Thurman goes in, beats Barrios, say he does, fights Terence Crawford, gives Crawford a hell of a fight because as much as I love Thurman, and it depends on what Thurman we get, it's hard for me to see Thurman beating Crawford. But if I see like the old Thurman against Barrios, hell yeah, Thurman's the best 147 in the world at one point. Like no one will be able to beat him, not even Crawford. That was like 5 years ago, though, in my opinion. He doesn't seem the same. He wasn't the same against Manny. He was close, not the same. So anyway, let's just say, you know, long story short, beats Barrios, right? And, you know, all right fashion, goes against Terence Crawford, gives him a hell of a fight, doesn't get knocked out, nothing. He still has, like he said, he can fight Earl, right? He can fight Lewis, right? He can somewhat have a similar career to Sean Porter. Sean Porter's kind of paved the way for guys like Keith Thurman now, when before it probably would have been the other way around. That makes sense. You can go in there, take some L's. Anthony Joshua, give it to him too. But you can go in there, take some. I don't know. It was obviously no disrespect to the greats who have L's and still great. But I'm talking about recent year, like Floyd Mayweather era, where it's like, oh, you got an L, you can't still be. You know, I can't watch you if you consider you at the top up echelon. I see that slowly going away in boxing, but. I'll say this: Thurman was always a weird dude to me. He was, but I feel like that's what made him great at boxing. I'm sorry, man. All right, y'all get the point, man. He's coming back. Salute to Keith Thurman. Look, like I said, I'm a big fan of Keith Thurman. Just sometimes, man, Keith Thurman, man, he be cracking me up, man. He kind of. Anyways, though, but see, everything I'm saying, everything I'm talking about, everything a lot of people are talking about when they're alluding to this being the next up. Terence Crawford. This is just Keith Thurman getting his warm-up fight against Terence Crawford. I showed you the clip with Terence Crawford on the Porterways podcast, basically. I forgot Sean Porter's co-host, but basically saying that Keith Thurman said, yeah, I want the Terence Crawford fight, but I need a warm-up fight. Terence Crawford saying, why I need a warm-up fight? He seemed like he's not ready. But basically that's coming into fruition with Keith Thurman getting a warm-up fight against Barrios. The reason why it's a warm-up fight is no disrespect to Barrios, but at the same time, you have to understand Barrios coming off a loss against Javante, right? Who just relinquished his 140-pound belt and is staying at 135. So a 135er came up, stopped you. There's nothing wrong with that because Javante is looking like he's going to be one of the best, right? But at the same time, Keith Thurman is known to be one of the best in the 147 division, and he's fighting Barrios at a new weight. It's going to be a tough fight for Barrios. Even the way that Thurman fights is a tough fight for Barrios because Thurman is a mover. He constantly moves, jab, 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 stays on the outside. He's never right there in place to exchange and get hit. That's going to be a real tough fight for Barrios to win, especially if Keith Thurman comes, in top shape. Hopefully not like he did against Josito Lopez. He looked crazy in that fight. But, if he comes in this fight, anything similar to how he looked against Manny Pacquiao, then I think he wins that fight pretty easily, probably just a unanimous decision. But if he comes in there looking like he did against Josito Lopez, man, it's going to be tough. But at the same time, against Lopez, he was coming off a long delay due to injury, right? In this particular sense, obviously, he had the injury in between or after the Manny Pacquiao fight that he had to deal with. And that's why he did have a delay in a sense. But I think part of it too is just he was getting things right. I don't think he's been out this long strictly because of that injury. I think more so it resides around the fact of obviously rehab, but also coming back for the right fight or coming back for the right reasons, right? Like I said before, I think he's past the point of just fighting to fight or be great or to get a certain belt. I think he feels like he's kind of already established himself in that sense. I think now he's like, okay, I got to fight the right guys at the right time for the right amount of money. That's where Thurman feels like he's at. And I agree. I think he's put in enough work where it's like you got to give him that. That's how I feel about it. But at the same time, like I said, I'm a big fan of Keith Thurman, so I might be a little bit biased when it comes to that. So let me pull this up right here. See, y'all see the love right there. Yeah. Keith Thurman, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to enlarge this one, though, for y'all to see. Bang, bang. All right, so what's happening January 29th. So like I said, early in the year, they're not taking no time. They're not waiting none. They come and Keith one-time Thurman will be resuming his once promising career next month against the recently knocked out former WBA secondary 140 champion Mario Barrios. Mike Compinger is reporting the news for Thurman versus Barrios fight having been agreed for January 29th. Azteca, Barrios 26 is coming off an 11th round knockout loss to Gervonta Tank Davis last summer on June 26 in a fight on Showtime pay-per-view in Atlanta. The Barrios we saw in the fight might be too young, active, and sharp for what's left. Wow, that's disrespectful. I love boxing News 24 because they're like, I'm pretty sure they're one of the biggest platforms, maybe not as big as boxing scene, but I'm like, they be the first to news. Like I've known that for a long time. They be first, they report shit no one else reports, and it comes true. Sometimes they report shit that never happens, and they do it for headlines. But one thing I always have had a beef when I came to Boxing News 24 is they are so biased in their writing, like in their articles. I'm like, God damn, what happened to people writing articles and not being biased and just putting out there? I mean, I'll be reading this, they'll lean so heavily to one side anyway. So the Barrio we saw in the fight might be too young, active, and sharp for what left of one-time Thurman. Let Keith be an underdog in his fight. If you I ain't betting a minute, I'll bet on that. And I'll put money. I'll bet. In his prime, Thurman was excellent fighter, but he's been plagued by injuries since 2016. Since 2016, and the success that he's enjoyed has kept him out of the ring. I think that's a wrong look at it. That's crazy how like it's interesting the perspective I was, but maybe because I'm a Keith Thurman fan, but it's interesting perspective in the way I displayed how Keith Thurman, I think he's done enough for the sport, and he's put himself in a position, and he's been smart financially, where now he's able to pick and choose who he wants to fight and what he thinks is going to add to his career. But they're putting it in the aspect of he's been injury plagued and he got money and he's enjoying his money, so he don't want to come back and he's not hungry. I think that's I ain't gonna read the rest of that. I think that's disrespectful. But this is a risky fight for Thurman. He's looked like the shell of his former self since his war with Danny Garcia in 2017. Now, I can be biased at times. I'm 100% with that, but Danny Garcia versus Keith Thurman was a great boxing fight, a great boxing match, a chess match, but it was nothing near war. But maybe I need to rewrite it. Rewatch it. Maybe I don't remember it like it really happened, but I don't know. So this is an interesting article. It's almost like it's almost like this entire article is bashing Keith Thurman. Does Thurman have anything less? He only has 2 fights in the last 4 years. He looked terrible against the fringe content. Yo, this article is kind of wild. But look, the whole reason why I even pulled it up though is just really, what I'm saying, so y'all can see January 29th. That's where they agreed to. Mario, Keith, one-time Thurman, man. I'm excited for that fight. At the end of the day, man, my final words when it becomes to that is I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be fire. I'm going to be 100% rooting for it. And if people feel the way that this article or whoever wrote that article feel about Keith one time, it seems like he's going to come into this as an underdog. And it's weird that someone could think this way about Keith Thurman when you have someone as great as Terence Crawford calling out Keith Thurman. So that obviously that means something, right? Like people still respect him. So I don't get the hate toward him. It is what it is. I feel like Thurman's had hate a long time, and he's always gotten an interesting rep. But it is what it is. But salute to that, man. That's a fire fight, man. I can't wait to, see what ends up happening next to it. But anyways, next on the list, man, Fury Dillian Whyte, man. We're not gonna be too much longer up in here, man. Real quick, man. If y'all do end up watching this later, coming up in here, man, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, show some love. We here, man. We give y'all content. We doing what we do, man. You know what I'm saying? Showing the community of boxing love. We love boxing. You heard me. We trying to give y'all a different type of look to it. And also remember too, today's Thursday, so tomorrow we got Black Goose Friday dropping. Got some new music for y'all, man. We're gonna have another Fluence boxing dropping tomorrow. And then remember Saturday, we got Fluence Lounge, which is gonna be crazy because we got all types of fights. Conor Benn versus Chris Algieri, man. We got Vasily Lomachenko versus Richard Comey. You know, the 135 division has been just on fire, man. And you know what I'm saying? We got a crazy UFC card. So we here all day in the building. So salute the people. But we're gonna rapid fire through these things, man. Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury. Obviously, it has not been announced. Obviously, no one said it's gonna happen. Obviously, no one's even putting any weight or any type of steam toward it. But at the end of the day, WBC is doing what they always do, and they ordering their mandatories. You know what I'm saying? They saying, "Hey, look, you got to face Dillian Whyte next." Like that's what we're saying. That's what's happening now. What's interesting to me, if I want to be 100 with you, like when it comes to the heavyweight division, it's interesting because I be feeling like you can order someone to fight their mandatory, and it's rare you see them fight their mandatory. But that's also because I feel like there's only like really 3 top dogs in a sense. But also I think it's just because it's the heavyweight division, right? But when you look at the lower division, they be like, oh, they ordered to fight the mandatory, so I got to fight my mandatory. I can't reject that. Let's see if Tyson Fury really faced Dillian Whyte, right? And if he does, that's going to be fire. Like, I love to see that fight. I'm a big Dillian Whyte fan. I've always been. Now, can he beat Tyson Fury? I don't know. All I know is December 7th, that's what, a couple of days ago, Tyson Fury was ordered. That headline, man, whoever wrote that article, you think by now they would have seen they messed up the wording, but the World Boxing Council ordered WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury defending against interim champion Dillian Whyte next. It's now in the negotiation period between the two with the purse bid if they cannot reach an agreement. Today's WBC announcement for the Fury versus Whyte negotiations to begin will undoubtedly make Matchroom Boxing promoter Eddie Hearn a very, very happy person because he's been pushing hard. Oh, Hearn. So this is where, so I love it how it starts with like actual reporting facts. Then it's like, okay, here comes the biased part of Boxing News 24, man. Oh, Hearn is probably as happy. Anyways, jumping for joy, all that. Even if Fury destroys Whyte, Anthony Joshua could face the Gypsy King in 22. So that's disrespectful. They already writing off Dillian Whyte. But anyways, this is what he said. I fight Dillian Whyte at the drop of the hat, said Fury. It's nothing to do with Tyson won't fight. He's been the mandatory for 200 million days, but he's been my mandatory one time. When they make him my mandatory, I will defend my belt and butcher him. He ain't been my mandatory because if he were, I'll be fighting him, said Fury about Whyte. Fury's comments may have unwittingly led the WBC to pull the trigger on the fight with Whyte because he made it clear to them that he has no issues with defending against them. So that happened December 7th. The WBC has ordered heavyweight Tyson Fury to defend against Dillian Whyte. So the way I look at this, and this is what I put into the community tab board, make sure y'all always check that out, man. If y'all want to see some interesting questions about boxing, y'all want to vote on certain things, make sure y'all go up in there, you know what I'm saying, vote. Love to hear y'all opinion on stuff. And on that particular topic, a lot of y'all was saying that it's going to happen, y'all expect it to happen, that if Tyson Fury beats Dillian Whyte, excuse me, I'm sorry, my bad, y'all. I went way too far ahead, but a lot of y'all agreed on the question where it said basically, if Anthony Joshua decides not to take the step aside money from Bob, and he says, I'm going to fight Usyk in this rematch, we're going to see Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte next year. We'll see Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte next year. We'll see Usyk versus Joshua next year, too. And the winner of those 2 fights will most likely end up fighting each other for all the belts, right? Undisputed at heavyweight. But that's if Joshua decides not to take a step aside money. So I'm like, with the WBC ordering Dillian Whyte to have, ordering Tyson Fury to have to defend his WBC belt against his mandatory, which is Dillian Whyte. We're now in a position where now Anthony Joshua has to sit back and say, is it the best decision for me to take the step aside money? Because something can be promised, but something can be taken away. So in my head, what I used to think, I was like, all right, they could possibly say to Joshua, look, we'll give you the step aside money. Obviously, it's not going to be about the money. Brother got money through the roof. But hey, here's the money. But we'll promise you the winner of Fury versus Usyk. Joshua's head is, and I wouldn't even think it's Joshua's head, more so his management, because no fighter thinks he could lose anyone, but his management being like, okay, what? Look, you had a little bit of trouble against Usyk. Let's just what if Fury beats Usyk? You could fight Fury, beat him, and then get your rematch with Usyk, and then fight Wilder. Right? Best case scenario, right? That's what they're saying. But with the WBC ordering Tyson Fury to fight is mandatory, the only way Fury gets out of that is to fight Usyk, right? But then does that mean if Tyson Fury beats Usyk, he would have to fight Dillian Whyte next? See, that's the thought that now plagues in Joshua's management team, because you can't technically promise me a Fury fight if Fury beats Usyk if we take this step aside money, because WBC coming like, hey, he needs to fight his mandatory now. He needs to fight Whyte. We'll let him fight Usyk for all the belts, but now he needs to defend his mandatory. So that makes it a sticky situation. So the way I see it now, when I take a step back and I look at it, I'm like, okay, let me take a whole entire look. Let me put everything in the frame. Let me look specifically. Let me eyeball this joint cyborg, you know what I'm saying? Red laser with the sniper on top of it, you know what I'm saying? Focal. Joshua's going to fight Usyk for the rematch 2 next year. So Usyk versus Joshua 2 is going to happen next year. Remember, y'all heard it here first. Make sure y'all like the button, because you already know everything I'm saying finna happen. I'm playing, but for real though, show some love. But Usyk versus Joshua is going to happen next year. Fury versus Dillian Whyte is going to happen next year. That's what we finna going to see. And I know there's a lot of, different things going out, because we saw Wilder do the ice bath with the Kevin Hart joint. He said he doesn't even thought, what's my point of coming back? I've proven everything. Look, y'all, I know y'all seen it. It was coming from the boxer's mouth himself, but either if Wilder's going to retire or he's going to come back and we're going to see him against Andy Ruiz. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I do not expect Wilder to retire. I just don't. As much and great as those 3 fights were, I don't see Wilder as a man losing 2 of those fights, arguably 3, and saying that's how I'm going to end my career, especially if he sees Fury come back and fight a guy like Dillian Whyte. There's so many people out there Wilder can beat, and make people not only look at that trilogy with Tyson Fury is amazing, especially the more Tyson Fury has accomplishments, it'll look more as an amazing trilogy, not only because Tyson Fury is going to be, okay, if he continues to beat guys and stack accolades, it's going to look better on Wilder's side, because Wilder will be the only guy to, take him to the depths that he did. But then also, if Wilder comes back and adds some more names to himself, it's going to look good on Wilder's side and Fury's side, because it's going to cement Wilder and Fury being the 2 best heavyweights of our era. Wilder hasn't done that yet. Fury is slowly cementing himself as the best heavyweight of my era right now, right? But Wilder, if he stops fighting now and he lets his legacy strictly be off of that, there's going to be debate. Usyk's going to come into mind. Joshua's going to come into mind. All these different guys are going to come. Joe Joyce is up and coming in. All these different guys, Dillian Whyte, all these guys are going to come into mind. So, but it depends on what Wilder wants, because he doesn't have to fight again. He's good. But Fury doesn't have to, right? So it kind of circles all the way back to, the Keith one-time Thurman versus Barrios. But Barrios and Thurman is, I guess you can say in his argument, you can say he has been dealing with some pretty, bad injuries that he's had to deal with. So that would be the difference. But y'all heard it here first, man. I'm letting y'all know, man. I think what's going to happen. We got 2022 coming up. By the way, happy early Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year's. But, I think next year what we're going to see, we got Keith Thurman versus Barrios happening. I think that's going to lead up to Keith Thurman versus Terence Crawford. I think next year at some point we're going to have Spence versus Ugas. I think that's going to have to happen before the Terence Crawford fight. And then I also think we're going to have Fury versus Dillian Whyte next year. And then I also think that we're going to have Anthony Joshua versus Usyk 2 next year. You see what I'm saying? I also think we're going to have Devin Haney versus Kambosos next year. Even if Loma looks amazing against Comey, he's not going to get Kambosos. I already called this out. You see, boxing channels are running with it. I get it. It makes sense after the performance and what we've seen, but I've been called this out. It's kind of obvious when you look at it. You know what I'm saying? George Kambosos with Matchroom. Devin Haney is with Matchroom in the zone. You can't stop that fight from happening, goddamn it. I don't care if Lomachenko stops Comey in 2 seconds, bro, and hits a world record. The next person up for Kambosos is Devin Haney, and everyone knows that. It's going to be undisputed at 135, right? And that's why Tank is staying at 135, because he understands that, and his management, next up for Tank has to be someone prominent in 135, and that's why Leonard Ellerbe and his team is trying to get Ryan Garcia. Garcia is not going to take that fight. That's not going to be good for his career. Garcia is still, retrospective, perspective, what would be the word for that? Okay, Garcia is still relatively young when it comes to being so far as the top of the 135 division. Now, not necessarily age, right? He's older than Devin Haney, but time off, experience, that's going to come into play. And really, we're starting to really question if Garcia is even going to be an upper echelon of the type of guy in the 135 division. So what I think is going to happen with Davis, I think Davis's next fight is going to be against none other than Roy Romero. So it's another prediction. So I'm having a prediction night right now. I'm like the guru. I might. What I need to do for y'all, I need to go ahead and cut this little part I have, clip it, and then put it on the tube, because I'm telling you, most of these fights that I'm saying is going to happen, right? Davis versus Roy Romero is going to happen next year in the 135 division. Excuse me. Who do we have left? Who do we have to talk about? We have Lomachenko, man. Who's going to be left over after Lomachenko beats Comey, right? Supposedly, right? You never know. It's boxing. Comey might land a big shot on Loma, but I see Loma styling on Comey. It's not going to be a fun night for him. But now all we're thinking about now is who does Loma have next? Who's going to fight next year? We're going to see Loma versus Teofimo Lopez 2 next year. So that's my prediction for 2022. I think 2022 is going to be fire when it comes to fights, but I think we're going to see Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte. Oh, we got last one up in the building, man. What's good with it, brother? Salute to him, man. I'm over here. I'm just ranting right now. I was talking about Whyte versus Fury, but I was ranting. I was saying this is my prediction. This is my prediction for 2022 for fights, right? I think we're going to see Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte next year. I think we're going to see Anthony Joshua versus Usyk 2 next year. I think we're going to see Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez 2 next year. I think we're seeing George Kambosos versus Devin Haney next year. I think we're going to see, I'm missing one. Keith Thurman versus Terence Crawford next year. And then I think we're also going to see Gervonta Davis versus Roy Romero. That's happening next year. So this is me just predicting all these different fights that I think is going to happen next year. What you think about Fury and Whyte? I think it's going to happen. I think the WBC ordered it. And I'm like, the reason why I think it's going to happen, because before I said Joshua's only reason to take the step aside money when it comes to Fury versus Usyk, right, would be that they promise him the winner of Fury and Usyk. They can't promise him the winner of that anymore, because if Fury fights Usyk, beats Usyk, as of December 7th, WBC ordered Fury to fight is mandatory. So what does that mean? Fury can beat Usyk, and WBC can be like, hey, okay, cool. We let you go and get undisputed, but now you got to fight your mandatory. So I think Joshua versus Usyk is going to happen next year too, and Fury versus Whyte is going to happen. I think it's going to be a hell of a fight. I think if Fury underestimates Dillian Whyte, it's going to be a problem. Because I don't think Fury can get Whyte out of there. I don't know. That sounds crazy. He got Whyte out of there. I think Fury versus Whyte is going to be a tough fight for Fury. So it's like I don't think he can avoid fighting Whyte no type of way. That's what I'm saying. Like, how much of a shot do you give him a Whyte fighting a Fury? I think Whyte fights better against bigger opponents, right? I think Whyte has a lot of trouble because of his boxing experience and his kickboxing experience. He has a lot of trouble against smaller opponents than, i.e. the Povetkin's of the world. But I think someone like Fury, he's going to be able to give him. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to beat Fury, but I think Whyte gives Fury anything he can handle. Wallen gave him a tough fight simply because he made it a dirty fight. Wilder's giving him tough fights because of that big right hand, but I think Whyte gives him a tough fight as well because he's a mixture of Wallen and Wilder. He doesn't have that, crazy knockout power that, Whyte has, but what he does have the capability of, he has that nasty left hook. He's a great body puncher, and he depending on what type of Whyte we get, you know, he's durable in the mug. So I'm like, that's a tough fight for Fury. I still think the boogeyman of the division is Joe Joyce. You know, that's why nobody wants to fight him. But, you know, that's how it goes. He's only lost it. That's what I'm saying. And I still to this day, I still think Eddie Hearn. My bad. Shit was out of focus. But I still think Eddie Hearn kind of set Dillian Whyte up when he fought Joshua. Because if y'all remember, Dillian Whyte beat Joshua in the Olympics. I think Dillian Whyte fought Joshua at the wrong time. I think if Dillian Whyte ever gets that goddamn rematch back, he can beat Joshua. Dillian Whyte knows that. Dillian Whyte could easily been what Joshua was for Eddie Hearn. But obviously, if you look at the look, marketing, money, you're gonna put everything behind Joshua. Yeah, but Michael Hunter ended up taking that fight with Triller. Like, they just had that fight with Triller, I think last weekend. It was on a Friday or something like that. Like, Triller threw him a bunch of money to fight some random dude as their main card, and he took that fight. So Joyce is still without an opponent. I don't blame you. Joyce is one of those guys I don't see any heavyweight trying to really run into, because I'm like, it's such a high risk and a low reward. Like, fighting Joyce doesn't do nothing for nobody. That's why Fury be praising him so much. I think I'm a big fan of Joyce. I think Joyce beats a lot of these heavyweights. We'll see though. But I'm like, next year, if you think about all the top tier heavyweights, none of their plans include Joe Joyce. Like, Joe Joyce is always the guy that's on the outside looking in. Like, he had to fight Daniel Dubois for anybody to give him any credit. And like, I was a fan of Daniel Dubois. But he's just too damn young. Dude's only like 23. Joe Joyce is like 33 years old, man, and he's a goddamn, I don't even know what it, like a stone brick, bro. Like, he's like power in both hands, just comes forward. Everyone's talking about him being slow and all types of shit, but that don't matter. It's the heavyweight division, man. One of the most, a lot of people don't talk about this, but one of the most beneficial things at heavyweight is being able to take a punch. Now, if you're able to take a punch and have hand of stones like Joe Joyce and be as big as Joe Joyce is and athletic, man, that's a problem, man. Is that how he's supposed to? I think that is how he's supposed to fight. I'll look it up right now, real quick. I'll see if Joe Joyce got anybody in the books. Let me go to Google. I don't know why my regular thing, I be hating it. Ain't gonna be nothing, bro. Joe Joyce next fight. That's old. That's for sure not right. Talking about Carlos Takam. He already fought that. Let me see what I got. We got 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's really the latest thing. Nothing, man. Okay, here we go. We got a little bit of traction. I'll go ahead and show that. We got a little bit of traction right here. I don't know how I feel about it, but this is what we got. Right here. So this is as late as 2 weeks ago. So we got 2 weeks. Joe Joyce named Tyson Fury fight date is Gypsy King of Weights. Y'all know that's not going to happen. Tyson Fury jokes he'd rather fight Savannah Marshall than Joe. Because I'm like, if Tyson Fury has a choice to fight Joe Joyce and Dillian Whyte, and Dillian Whyte was ordered as mandatory, ain't no way. Like, I love Dillian Whyte. Like I said, he has a good chance, but ain't no way he finna pick Joe Joyce. Oh yeah. He just fought too. He got that knockout. I think he fought last weekend. But I'm like, the soonest thing is 1 week ago. He said Joe Joyce could be Tyson Fury's best option as he eyes unification bout with Joshua or Usyk, but that was a week ago. You feel me? As of December 7th, we found out that WBC ordered Dillian Whyte as Tyson Fury's mandatory. So that takes Joe Joyce out. So the only thing that really makes sense is here. That's the only thing that makes sense. So this is probably going to be Joe Joyce's next fight. It is Kubrat Pulev. Bad fight for Pulev. Pulev gets knocked out, man, in this fight. Pulev has no chance against Joe Joyce. That's a fact. Just to be real. So I'm like, this is a good fight for Joe Joyce. So I'm not even gonna lie to you. With all the belts tied up until early 2022, who else could be next for 36-year-old? According to Sky Sports, early talks are underway for a fight against 40-year-old Bulgarian Kubrat Pulev. As long as he stays busy, and as long as he stays busy against a good opponent, because I'm like, him fighting Carlos Takam. Sorry, brother. And then before that, Daniel Dubois, and then after that, he's going to be fighting Kubrat Pulev. I'm like, that's a beautiful 3-fight win streak. Because I'm like, there's no way I don't see Joe Joyce losing to Pulev. So I'm like, if he keeps this type of motor going, Joe Joyce, there's no way that, one of these top tier heavyweights aren't going to be able to. At some point, Tyson Fury, at some point, Wilder, at some point, Anthony Joshua, Usyk, at some point, one of them going to have to fight. Now, the most, what could I say? Like, the most believable that I could see happening would be Usyk versus Joe Joyce, just because they fought, back in the Olympics. That's a hard fight for Wilder. I don't know if Wilder would take that fight. I see Wilder, if Wilder decides not to retire, I see him coming back for the Andy Ruiz fight, man. I like Takam, I won't lie. He gave AJ a great fight. I think he stopped that fight early. Yeah, I think Takam kind of, if you're really a boxing fan, I think we kind of all, if you want to be real, for me, when I saw that fight, I thought they stopped the fight too early, and I kind of think that's when, if you're real with yourself, you knew AJ was missing a lot when it came to supposedly what they were trying to say, what he was, or building up him to be, especially to the extent of how they, they bashed him in comparison to Deontay. Because I'm like, you see what Joe Joyce did to Takam. Joe Joyce had no problem, man. Yeah, he do. That's because he's so stiff, though. He's so goddamn stiff. He's not naturally, he's just not natural with anything he does. Everything just seems so like he's thinking about everything that happens. So a smaller fighter it's too easy for them to get up under him, because while AJ is thinking, the smaller fighter is getting up under him, getting a better position, and then he's working off of that. He needs that Barry Robinson in his life, man. Drill that born repetition. Yeah, yep. I'm like, that Takam fight is like, it's like even at the moment, even like something went off in my head, like, okay, he had a little bit too much struggle with Takam, but like over time, especially over time, when you just kind of see what other fighters did with Takam, and then you just kind of see how he was moving, it's like, okay, that was it. That was a fight where you could have guessed, like, okay, my guy AJ, if he gets the wrong fights, man, he might have a downfall in this thing. Like, for real. But let me get to the because I don't want to keep y'all, man. Let me get to the last point up in this thing. I went off on a tangent talking about what's gonna happen next year and all that shit. But Adrian Broner, man, y'all know we got Conor Benn versus Chris Algieri coming up this Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Fluence Lounge, we're gonna go live for that. No doubt about it. But supposedly, and we've been hearing this for a minute, right? Conor Benn versus Adrian Broner is possible. Now, Adrian Broner said he wanted to come back, right? If y'all been following Adrian Broner, following the channel, Adrian Broner been saying he wanted to come back, and he also said he didn't want to retire until he gets one more chance at the belt. Shit, me and Zen was talking about this ourselves, right? Me and Zen was like, for Adrian to come back, and if he's talking about the only way he gonna retire, I need a belt. The only way he gonna get a belt is at 140. Adrian Broner ain't getting no belt at 147. There's just too many big guys, and there's too many skill guys at that division. But if he gets right, he gets serious, you know what I'm saying, and he comes back, like, yo, let me get that 140. I think Adrian Broner is a problem, depending on what type of Adrian Broner we get, but he has to be disciplined just to make that weight. So I think I'm, like I like what Lost One's saying. That's a good fight for Conor, but what type of Adrian Broner do we get at 140 though? That's that he has to be in great shape for that. So if Adrian Broner even is considering it, Eddie Hearn's gonna talk. Conor Benn's been wanting this fight for a minute. Regis Prograis been calling out Adrian Broner, but it's on Adrian Broner to be like, hey, yo, I got to be disciplined enough to make that weight. Because I think Adrian Broner's a problem at 140, and he has a chance to get a belt at 140. How old is Broner? Broner's only like 33, 32. I think Broner's only 32. Broner's still young. Let me see if they say. It's not saying in the article, but I think Broner's only like 32, 33. He's still young. I think it's time to holler at Eddie Hearn. Hey, if Adrian Broner want to come back and he want to make another bag, man, Eddie Hearn's the guy to do it, especially if he's a free agent right now. That's fire. But remember, man, don't overlook Chris Algieri. I know Chris Algieri, you know what I'm saying, he's a little bit on the old side, but Conor Benn is he has to get through him first for anyone to even be talking about it. And I think if he buckles down, he can get it. I know Ben's a beast. I think if Benn beats Algeria, like okay, bet you gotta get respect. But Benn versus Adrian Broner, bro, I'm telling you, Broner's not even gonna let Benn hit him. At 140, I want Broner to come back, man. I'm the biggest Broner fan. Like, man, like if I'm niggas be like, Floyd's my favorite fighter. Muhammad Ali, respectfully, is my favorite fighter. Canelo's my favorite fighter. Man, my favorite fighter, for real, if you want to be 100, Adrian Broner. Like, that's the motherfucker who got me into boxing. That's the motherfucker who got me started. Why? Like, I'm the biggest Adrian Broner. So I'm like, I think that's where you need to be. So I'm like, that'd be fire, man, for that to happen. But you know, Ben got to get through Chris Algieri. That ain't an easy fight at all for Ben. That's gonna be probably his toughest, you know, opponent that he to date. That's happening this Saturday, so that's gonna be fire. Don't you think Broner should fight someone else first? I gotta be real with you, like, nah. I think if Broner come in his best shape, I think if Broner comes ready to win, I think he beats Conor Benn on his best day. I don't think Conor Benn is even close to Broner's level, but that's the thing about Broner is like we ain't really seen that type of level in I don't know how many years, but I still got faith that he can bring that out. Yeah, and he just got surgery. I don't know what on, you know what I'm saying? Nobody really talked about it. Nobody really put it out there, but supposedly he just got surgery. So it's a long shot, maybe because I'm such a big Broner fan. I'm hoping for the best. But I still think, man, 140 is different. Like 147, like 147, Broner's only lost to the best, right? Hold on. But I'm like, in the 147 division, I'm like, people don't want to talk about this when it comes to Broner. I'm like, Broner's only lost to the best. Like that's real. And maybe a little bit later along in his career, obviously, you know, he got a draw with Jesse Vargas. That's not the greatest look. I'm like, he lost to Manny Pacquiao, Marcos Maidana, Sean Porter. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Mikey Garcia isn't looking the best on his resume after the Mikey Garcia, how Mikey Garcia lost recently, but that's probably the only one where you kind of look at it and you be like, okay, that's a little bit suspect. But yeah, Conor is young and hungry, and that's what's gonna make the difference. But you know, for me to believe Conor Benn is better than a Mikey Garcia, better than a Sean Porter, you know what I'm saying, better than a Manny Pacquiao, better than Marcos Maidana, you know what I'm saying? You know, I you know, I thought he beat Jesse Vargas, but it's a draw. But you know, I don't know. You know, so it's like we'll see. I guess it comes down to see how good Conor Benn is. I think we're gonna find that out Saturday because he's finding out. I think if he beats Chris Algieri, I'll give Conor Benn his thing. I think Ben's a beast. Ben's a beast, but we haven't really seen him against those guys yet. Those top upper echelons where we could really say like, oh, okay, bet. You know what I'm saying? He isn't. His dad's proven. You feel me? Ben has actually surpassed my expectations. I didn't think Conor Benn. I didn't think he was going to be that good, this good, or as good as he is. I really didn't think that. Like the progression that he's shown has shown that he's really like focused and he's all in. And he's trying to make his own way, but it's just like at the same time, he's in a division that in order for you to be looked at as that guy, you got to go against some guys. You feel me? 140 division ain't no joke. 135 division ain't no joke. 147 division is crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I think we're going to find out who he is when he fights Chris Algieri. But I think if he ends up booking a fight like against Broner, we're really going to find out. But at the same time, we'll find out who Broner is too, because we'll see if he really belongs to come back and do his thing, or really, you know what I'm saying, he should have been out the game. So even though he's still a ripe, he's only 32. He's a young nigga, but I guess, you know, boxing years maybe not so much, but that's how it goes sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Conor Benn versus Chris Algieri. That's this weekend. So yeah, that's what I was finna say. So Saturday we got Fluence Lounge back to back. So I think Chris Algieri versus Conor Benn is probably gonna happen like midday. So I'll go live for that joint. That's gonna be fire just for the main event. And then later in that day, obviously we got Lomachenko versus Richard Comey. That's gonna be fire. And then we got also like doubled up with that same thing. We got the UFC, that crazy UFC card headlined by Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira. So that's gonna be fire. So we got a crazy night for Saturday when it comes to or a crazy day period when it comes to fighting Saturday. I can't wait for that. So the week is finna be lit. Tomorrow, Black Goose Friday finna drop. We're gonna have that out. A little bit of new music for y'all. Facts, great fights. I'm gonna come with another Fluence boxing tomorrow too. I'm not sure what I'm gonna talk about. We'll talk about something, but you know what I'm saying, we're gonna get in and have a little bit of fun and maybe talk a little bit more about Chris Algieri versus Conor Benn. And yeah, y'all, you know what it is, man. So we got a good weekend coming, man. Last one. Salute to you, bro. Appreciate you hopping up in. yeah, I can't wait to see you on Saturday, man. Hopefully you can get in here for both of the Fluence lounges, but at least one, you know what I'm saying? You already know what it is. We're gonna enjoy the night, but I appreciate you being up in here, man. I'm gonna get up out of here myself. Make sure y'all hit the like button. If y'all hop up in here later, if y'all rewatch it, whatever it is, man, please hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button. That means everything when it comes to this gets us into the algorithm. And then obviously, if you're not part of the family, man, go ahead, be part of the family, man. Why not? But as always, man, peace, blessings, positivity. Much love to everybody. Hopefully y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Thursday night. Hopefully y'all enjoy y'all weekend. Once again, I'll be back tomorrow with a little bit of something. We got Black Goose Friday, and then we got Fluence Lounge Saturday. So make sure you join us for that. As always, I'm gonna get out of here. And salute to the king. I'm out.
The hurt, I swear it really just don't fade away. But where you been, nigga, really I'd say. Got the type of nigga y'all just really hate. To work you, I swear I'm a nigga, go film a play. Stacking money, yeah, like every day. Praying for some better days. All this pain that you see that be on my face. Looking guilty like a nigga caught a case. Good lady, I swear I've been in the dog's place. Wish that I can go and I could hide my face. Don't know what the fuck lately to really chase, but I swear I got money in the baby like I'm pork chase. Something feel like I could be 4th grade. Never felt like you did really just be dumb things. I'm losing hope and I swear all that shit's fake. But I swear every day, yeah, I just still be getting paid. But all that really do, it really numb the pain. The hurt, I swear they got me feeling so insane. Every day I put a smile up on my face, but every day I swear that shit just be so fake. Frontin' one like contemplate. Swear every day I swear I be losing faith. Hoping that they the same fate. But lately I swear I just been here and day. Lately I swear I just really sad days. Yeah, y'all know what I'm feeling, you understand what I'm saying. I swear to God, yeah, I ain't really playing. Feel like lately I just be up in the state, but I don't know there's any more that I can take. Try to do better, but I feel like it's too late. I'm in my head, girl, cause that pussy was great. I swear I was addicted to that pussy fake. Lady feeling so degraded. How ain't you do this bad? How ain't you do this sad? I'm in my head, think who to blame. Something in my head say yeah, it's all just part of the game. Why every day I swear I be feeling all the shame. Trying to smile, but I swear that shit really don't feel same. Losing my direction like a nigga cannot aim. Still wishing that a nigga like me had really changed, but I swear I still ain't really motherfucking changed.